Good morning, Angelo. How are you? It's lovely to see you. You are our lead on all things virtual access this morning. Where are you now, actually, before we start?
Good morning. I'm actually sitting in Bremen, so in northern Germany at the moment,
Very nice.
in a relatively cloudy day, but happy to be here and
Lovely.
happy to be at TPSC.
Yeah, it's great that we're back, isn't it? It's great to have you back as well as part of daily briefings. Okay, Angelo, so you're going to take us through some of the virtual access activities that are taking place and some of the facilities that are available to our members. So I'm gonna put the focus on you. I'm going to change my view now and put the focus on you. So off you go. Tell us a little bit more.
Well, Europlanet as an infrastructure has a lot of activities. Some of them obviously are related to lab facilities, to access to field labs, more or less virtual or semi-virtual at the moment. And then there is a whole bunch of activities which are completely virtual. And those are, again, called virtual access. And there are a set of different activities that are targeting different bits of the community. And they have a wide range, of course, of topics covered and of services and facilities. And some of them, they have a longer history and heritage. For example, VESPA, which is the Virtual European Solar and Planetary Access for database. Planetary data access is there since the previous infrastructure and has been evolving and incorporating more data. VESPA itself, it's actually a way to implement and make available for the planetary community an approach that for astronomer was there since a long time, the one of virtual observatories, which means that actually data could be accessed from anywhere in a standard way and also made discoverable, because one of the big issues in general, particularly in the last decade, where planetary data are getting much more abundant and complex, is actually to find them, to find the data that you need. There are many approaches, of course. Space agencies, they have a lot of activities here, both ESA and NASA and other space agencies for making data available to the community, which means mainly for the scientists, but also, of course, for the education community and also for the public at large, because all planetary data are actually public in nature.
Yeah.
And in order to do this, one approach is to actually use the virtual observatory way, which is to expose certain metadata, so to say data about data, and searching them makes actually easier to find the data, regardless you are looking at a single set of images of Mars or in a single area of Mercury or somewhere in the magnetosphere of a certain planet. Now, VESPA does its things, of course, virtually. So the access is via web services. So one doesn't need really physical presence. But sometimes we used to organize workshops. And since the pandemic is on since 1.5 years, of course, we had to kind of make this virtual access even more virtual. So, for example, there will be a workshop later in November, which will be virtual in nature, the first one after a few years of workshops in presence. And actually, this works pretty well. This kind of virtual approach to virtual access activity was implemented also in other services. For example, GMAP. GMAP is not as old as VESPA, is newer, is new to this infrastructure, but it does, of course, have heritage from existing projects and overall from the geological mapping activity that has been carried out in Europe in these decades, which was, of course, not non-existing. And basically, the idea is to help the community to perform mapping of planets, to actually use the surface imaging and surface covering data from the different solar system bodies, of course, solid solar system bodies, to actually support and foster geologic mapping. It's something that it seems to be an intellectual or a kind of academic exercise. It is not, because it has a big impact on not only on resource evaluation for future human exploration, but just even for selecting and characterizing the landing site for actually carrying out then in situ observation or sample return. So all of it actually has an impact which is also shared, of course, in another topical area by SPIDER, which is a space weather set of activities within the infrastructure, which is also, like as VESPA, bearing some heritage from the previous infrastructure, from the back then called PSWS, Planetary Space Weather Service. And SPIDER aims at actually making space weather data and models available for all solar system bodies, and using data assimilation and models based actually on actual data provided by spacecrafts close to Earth and orbiting other planets, or of course within the solar system. So both archive and active data, as well as supporting future missions. All these services, of course, they are providing data, they're providing models, model access, they are supporting the community to do something, but sometimes the number of people is limited. The community, it's of course relatively large in Europe, it's not so big and is growing, but still the data are growing more than the people. So one of the approaches that the VA activities took, and that's also some kind of novelty of this infrastructure, is to use, of course, what is now getting quite common and important, is to use machine learning or kind of algorithm-based approach to actually analyze data and to make eventual predictions, on to essentially interpret the data and support the classical data analysis performed by actual graduate students, researchers, and so on and so forth. And in this respect, machine learning is transversal because it does cover different topics. It could cover topics related to space weather. It can cover topics related to geologic mapping, to surface feature, to analysis of plasma data. All of them are actually covered by the machine learning activity. And the idea of the infrastructure is to make available tools and documentation and services that can be also used by the community within other projects, because of course there are also other funded projects, for example, within H2020 Space, or national or bilateral funding frameworks and programs, where actually the data, the services provided or supported by the infrastructure can then be exploited and used by the community. So the idea is to actually help cultivating this kind of scientific activity and supporting the community that is not necessarily working within the infrastructure, but can be actually working with other research projects in Europe or also elsewhere. And in this respect, for example, for GMAP, there is some cooperation with a Chinese-based project, research project over 3 years, with similar timeline of infrastructure, just for geologic mapping, mainly using Chinese orbital and lander-based data.
Okay. And so, Angelo, if our members want to get access to this, how do they apply for virtual access, of whether it's SPIDER or VESPA, or how does the process work?
The best thing is actually to go on the Europlanet Society Research Infrastructure page, and then all the services and all the systems are linked. And of course, there are contacts with there typically also specific activities per infrastructure activity type. For example, we used to have a winter school last year for GMAP. Last year, actually, is this year in February. Yeah. And there will be also one next year. There are workshops of VESPA. There are, of course, sometimes splinters at conferences such as the PSC. We will have a VESPA splinter. We will have a GMAP splinter. So essentially, getting in touch through the infrastructure will find an easy way to contact and reach out to the activity leaders and the people that actually can give a hand.
Brilliant. Sounds great. Thanks so much, Angelo, for sharing everything about all things virtual access. Have a great day and enjoy the Congress. Take care.
Thank you very much. Bye. Thank you.